Welcome to another how-to video by Trend Micro. My name is Michael Clifford. I'm a support engineer here at Trend Micro. Today we're just going to go over how to install Apex One. The recommended path is to stand up a new server and then migrate to it from your existing infrastructure. So this is a fairly simple install. I've already got it running here, and to get it going, just run as administrator. Make sure you have all the privileges necessary to begin the program and that it has all the rights to write to the disk. So first couple of screens, it's just a bunch of next buttons. Go ahead and click those, and then you get to the ever important license agreement, which you should importantly read carefully. So we'll go ahead and click next there. This choice is just to scan the target endpoint, completely up to your organizational parameters or your enterprise requirements. My lab is fresh, so I really don't have any compromise, so I'm just going to not scan my endpoint. So it goes through a short duration of assessing the target's endpoint resources, make sure everything's at least at the very minimal requirements. And we have another video discussing those requirements. So right after that screen, we get to the proxy settings. If you do have a proxy in your environment, make sure to set it here so that the Apex One server can reach out to get updates for its agents. Right here is where you specify the activation code. And I'm going to pause the video for a second so no one gets access to my ultra 50-day trial code. And I'm back. So just put in the registration code, and now we're at the area where we specify the installation path. So you could change this to wherever you need. Organizationally, if you need it on the D drive, just D Trend Micro, leaving it as the default today. This is where you specify the fully qualified domain name or the IP address. So pick one that's suitable for your organization, however you wish the agents to communicate with the server and connect to the server. So in my lab, I generally go with the fully qualified domain name, so we're leaving it there. The web server setup comes with two options. One is the virtual website, the other is the default. The default forces 443 for the SSL port and port 80. However, the virtual gives you a little bit more flexibility, so you can define the SSL port as well as the HTTP port. I'm leaving this as the default, but you can specify any port you want for the SSL and the HTTP, and these will be the ways that the agent reaches to the server and also how you gain access to the console. Once you select your website parameters, you get to this screen with the endpoint sensor. So it's important to note that you cannot install endpoint sensor on SQL Express. You need to have full SQL Server 2016 SP1 or later, and the full text and semantic extractions for search must be enabled. I am running a SQL Express because I'm cheap, so I don't have a full SQL Server set up in my lab, and I can't install this. If you do try to, it will error out, and on the next screen, the install and create new SQL Server Express will be blanked out. Now I do have a remote SQL Server, however, but it is SQL Server Express. So you just enter in the parameters for your SQL Server here. There are a few permissions related to the database creation as well as the access modifiers for the Apex One service. So make sure you view our admin guide or our previous videos to find out what those requirements are, whether you use a SQL account or a Windows account. Just for ease of use, I'm going to go ahead and use the SA account, which has the ultimate admin rights. Once you've filled out your information, click the test connection button. It'll go through, let you know if it connects successfully, and then go ahead and click next. Informational screen tells you how big the packages are for each different type of scan method. We'll definitely go with Smart Scan when we start up, but you can see here that the package sizes differ slightly, with the conventional being a little bit bigger. The integrated Smart Protection server is good for sub 5,000, maybe 7,000, depending on server specs and how many connections you have going into the server. If you're going to be beyond that, then definitely look into installing a standalone. My lab is very small, so I'm going to go with the integrated right here. If you don't have an agent on the endpoint you're currently installing the server on, or you don't have deep security or anything like that, you'll have this option to install the security agent. I have an existing agent for migration purposes, so I don't have the option right now. It detects it, and I'm just going to go ahead and click next. Smart feedback? Yes, please. I want the product to get better, and I want Trend Micro to help me find different emerging threats. So I'm going to give them my industry type, and today is education. All about that education. So I'll select that, click the next, and you get to the part where you specify where the security agent installs on the endpoint. Make that whatever your organizational parameters dictate, and you can use some environmental variables as you see here. Now for the port number, this is the agent listening port. Just make sure this port is able to reach from the server to the agents and that it's open in your environment. I wouldn't suggest picking port 53. The firewall, you could select whether it comes enabled or disabled on desktop platforms as well as server platforms, and by default servers are disabled. I would recommend leaving it on. It comes with a blank policy. If you ever need to issue a policy or utilize the firewall, then you won't have to redeploy the module. It comes on the setup. So I'd just leave this checked as default, even if you have another option. You can always turn this off though if you do use a different option for your firewall. Spyware grayware assess mode. If you enjoy looking at all the spyware grayware in your environment and then deciding whether it can run or not, then you can go into assess mode. If you do not enable assess mode, it'll take the default action for that spyware grayware that you have specified in your settings. Web reputation services is a very important part of our product. It protects users from malicious websites or compromised websites. Highly recommend leaving this on for desktops. Maybe not so much for servers unless they're used for browsing specifically. I haven't seen a browsing server in a while, but you can enable it. So this is the server authentication certificate that allows Apex One agents to talk to the server. So you could generate a new one or import it from your existing infrastructure. Today we're installing fresh, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice strong password of 7 digits and generate a new certificate for it. The root account is a master admin account. Very important to keep this password somewhere safe, somewhere handy. If you ever lose access to some of the accounts you add later on, then this will be the account you use to access the console. Now you shouldn't make the unload and uninstall password for the agent the same as the root console password for obvious reasons, and it'll complain at you if you do, like I just did. You can see here, strongly recommends using different passwords, but of course, I'm not going to follow that recommendation. Get rid of this nonsense here. I already know what server I'm on. I'm good with that. Happy times. And that's it. We get to the part where we get to go over all of the stuff that we just selected. And once you go ahead and review it, if you need to change anything, back out and then change whatever values you see that are incorrect. So I think I'm good with what I've selected. I'm going to go ahead and click install here. And it starts deploying the database and installing all the services and everything needed for Apex One. I'm not going to waste anyone's time watching green bars fill from left to right, so I'm going to pause the video here and we'll come back right when it finishes. And we're back. So the green bars just finished filling from left to right and everything's good to go. So we have a button here to launch our Apex One console, and as you can see, it put a little link on the desktop there. So we'll go ahead and click it up and make sure everything is up and running. And here we are. And right now, you could just specify your root password, log in for the first time, and take a look around. So make sure to check out our other videos on how to register this to Apex Central. Sorry, this one was a little quick, but it is an install video, and we just kind of wanted to give you guys a guide through it, and don't want to spend too much of your time with it. So we'll catch you on the next video, guys. Have a nice day. Bye.